Hey everyone, I'm Mark Sievers and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to show you my secrets of making a fabulous French apple and raspberry tart at home that doesn't include having to make your own pastry, and it's really just a few simple ingredients that make the absolutely most gorgeous French dessert you'll ever make at home that's really so simple. So I first had a French apple tart years ago in Paris, and it's funny because I know a lot of you love pie, but I'm actually not a pie person. I love chocolate cream pie and I love Boston cream pie, but that's really a cake. Pies for me were never my thing. Ryan loves pies. But for me, I love crisp pastry, thin layer of beautiful fruit, little bit of sugar, some butter, and I love that I can use frozen puff pastry from the grocery store. I don't have to make my own frozen puff pastry from scratch, so I can have a beautiful French tart really anytime I want. So let me show you a little overhead of what I have going on. So first I have just 2 Granny Smith apples. I've peeled them. And then I have my frozen puff pastry dough. And when you buy this at the grocery store, it comes, of course, in the frozen section. And then I just let it thaw in the refrigerator overnight. And for today's recipe, I'm just gonna use there's two sheets in here. I'm just gonna use 1 sheet, and I'm gonna put this other one back into the refrigerator and maybe make another kind of tart or some other buttery pinwheels I have on my website. Those will be perfect actually for tomorrow morning. And what I love about this is I'm not even rolling it out. All I'm doing is unfolding it and putting it onto a parchment-lined half sheet pan. And that's it. And you can see it already has 3 quadrants, and I'm going to show you why those are important in a few minutes. So first I'm going to start by preparing my apples. So I've peeled them, and I'm just going to core them. And how I don't have an apple corer or things like that. I just take my knife and just run straight-sided cuts down the center until you have beautifully cored apples. Just like this. You don't need a mandolin for this. You don't need any specialty kitchen equipment, really just a knife and a cutting board. And then I want these to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. You don't have to take out a ruler. They don't have to be perfect. And I find that 2 large Granny Smith apples is the perfect kind of amount for this particular tart. And really, it's just about slicing. What I love about making a tart like this too is it's really rustic. And you know, the more that I cook and entertain for friends and family and recipe test and write books and you know, all of the things that come along with recipe testing, I'm really finding for me that I'm no longer after perfection. I'm really after something that's perfectly rustic and looks really homemade, and that's exactly what I love about making this French apple and raspberry tart. So I'm almost done cutting the apples. You can certainly cut the apples ahead of time if you wanted to bake this maybe right before dinner so it comes out of the oven hot. You can put the apples, slice the apples, put them in a bowl, a couple tablespoons of lemon juice, and give them a toss, and you can let those sit in that acidic water for up to really 4 or 5 hours. And then just strain them, pat them dry, and then continue on with the tart. So let's get on to building the tart. I'm so excited. So remember I told you about those 3 quadrants that are automatically in the puff pastry. That's what's gonna give me my guide, and this is what's gonna be really, really simple on how I know where to layer my apples. So I'm gonna start by putting apples in a single layer. I'm slightly overlapping them, and I'm just going right down my piece of puff pastry. So now it's about putting on the raspberries. So I have a cup of raspberries, and this is like the only fussy part because obviously you can't just pour them on and leave them. You do kind of have to spread them out a little bit. And what I love about this tart is that when it bakes, the raspberries take on a little bit of a dark color. The edges of the tart kind of get a little burnt from the sugar and butter, but that's what makes it so beautiful and delicious. That caramelized kind of sugar and those burnt edges really do make for a fabulous tart. So this is a cup of raspberries that I'm just trying my very best to evenly distribute. It's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. We are no longer looking for perfection. We are looking for delicious. So I'd say that looks pretty good. Next, we need some sugar. So I have 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar, and I don't want this to be too sickly sweet, and I just want, it seems like a lot of sugar, but remember you have tart apples, and there's a lot of them, and you want this to kind of caramelize and be really delicious. So what I do is just go down the quadrant 3 at a time, just like this. I try not to get a lot on the sheet pan, just because I don't want it to burn too badly. But again, it doesn't have to be exact. 3 tablespoons, I think, are the perfect amount. Just like this. Perfect. And then we need some butter, baby. So I'm using some beautiful Irish butter today. You can use Irish butter, French butter, European style butter, or just regular butter, but you want it to be unsalted. And I'm gonna use 3 tablespoons. So this little guide here we go. 1, 2, 3, perfect. Just where I thought it should end up. So 3 tablespoons of butter. This is cold butter, and I'm gonna dice it up, nice small pieces, and I'm gonna scatter this on top of the tart. And cold butter will just prevent it from melting too quickly into the oven. When you're working with European or French style or Irish butter, you'll notice there's a huge color difference. It's much more yellow. It has a lot more flavor, a lot more milk solids in there, a lot more fat kind of. And I think it really does have so much better flavor. But it also gets, and you can, like, it tastes like pure delicious butter. I love it. So whoops, little raspberry's trying to get away. So now I'm just gonna dot the top of this beautiful tart with all of this butter. See, so that wasn't very hard, but the only kitchen tip that I have is you wanna make sure that the shelf of your oven is completely level. Even if it's off like 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch, you wouldn't notice it other times, but for this recipe, if it's off, the sugar and butter, once it melts, it's gonna run off and pool into one corner. It makes a complete mess on your sheet pan. It gets burnt. It's not pretty. So for me, I found that just doubling up my sheet pans is my solution to making sure that everything is perfectly level. If you don't have 2 sheet pans, just make sure you can put a little water maybe in your sheet pan when the oven's off, and see where the water kind of, if it pools anywhere, it stays right in the center, you're good to go. If it pools anywhere, maybe just take the end of a stainless steel spoon and just use that as a little shim on your sheet pan just to kind of level that off, because we want this French apple and raspberry tart to be perfectly golden brown and all of the sugar and butter to stay on top of the fruit. So let's go into the kitchen. I have a preheated 400-degree oven, and I'm gonna put this in for about 35 or 40 minutes. I know my oven, so I'm gonna put it in for about 40 minutes. And then in the meantime, we're gonna get our apricot glaze together. So this is what gives beautiful fruit tarts that gorgeous sheen. And we want this to look still rustic, but that beautiful, shiny, gorgeous coating of apricot preserves. So lots of different ways you can use apricot preserves, and you can strain it through a sieve, You can use apricot jelly, which is perfectly, which doesn't have any pieces of fruit. But to be honest with you, I find just about a 1/4 cup of apricot preserves in a little saucepan just like this, and maybe, let's see, a little splash of water. And once this starts to heat up, you can strain it, but I actually don't even do that. I just let it be, and whatever's left inside, Ryan always uses on a piece of toast with some butter. So if you want to be, you know, perfectly smooth, you can strain it, but I didn't really think you need to, especially for something so small like this. And this, you just see, I'm just getting this to be just a little bit more fluid, and obviously I'll have to re-warm this up to make it thinner when the tart comes out of the oven. But for now, that's perfect. So I'm just gonna leave this and wait for 40 minutes but during that time, your house is going to smell like butter, sugar, puff pastry, apples, raspberries. It's not so bad. So 40 minutes, I'll meet you back here and we'll glaze our tarts. Get cleaned up. Actually, there's really not that much cleaning up to do. That's why I love this tart. So I've taken my tart out of the oven. It's been cooling for about 10 minutes. I've reheated my little apricot glaze. So let's go and glaze this gorgeous tart. How fabulous is this? Isn't this so beautiful? So I love the dark edges of the pastry, the corners of the apples, the raspberries. Some of them have taken on a little color. I think it's just so beautiful. And when you present this at a dinner party or a lunch or even just a great little weekend gathering, it looks so impressive. And now this is just about getting that glaze onto all of this beautiful fruit. So the one thing you'll notice with this is that you can't brush on because you'll start moving all of the raspberries around, you'll move all of the apples. So what I do is I just take it and kind of just like stipple it a little bit. I find that works perfectly well. You can serve this with a little bit of vanilla ice cream. You can serve it with even some creme fraiche, which is the way I like to serve it. And I mean, this is such a beautiful tart. And et voila, the perfect French apple and raspberry tart. So I would say that's not so bad considering A, we didn't have to make puff pastry from scratch. B, we didn't get the jet lag from having to travel to Paris. And C, I used a handful of ingredients that you can get at any local grocery store. So my French apple and raspberry tart. I hope you guys loved this video. If you did, please give it a little thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel by hitting the little notification bell so you're notified of new videos as soon as they post. And until next time, thanks so much for joining me on my YouTube channel. Head over to marcsievers.com for this full written recipe as well as many others. And au revoir. Bye, guys. Let's see, I should share this with Ryan. But do you think it's bad if I just take a little bite? Oh, look at that. I'm just gonna break it with my hands. I'm sure the puppies are gonna hear this and come. Look at it, it even breaks perfect. I love this. That is so, that's so elegant. Bye, guys. This recipe and more can be found on my website, marcsievers.com. Thanks for watching.